Hello and welcome again to Cherry Red TV. I'm Ian McNay and my guest today is Gareth Ainsworth. Hi Gareth.
How you doing?
And Gareth has played for many clubs. He's currently the manager of Wycombe Wanderers, and I've brought him along today because he's such an interesting character, and of course he has played also for Wimbledon, he's played for Wycombe, and he's played for a lot of clubs. He was first signed to Blackburn Rovers, he was at Northwich Victoria, Preston North End, Cambridge United, again at Preston, Lincoln, Port Vale, Wimbledon, Walsall on loan shortly, Cardiff City shortly, QPR, and then he came to Wycombe as a player, and then his caretaker manager, and then his manager. So we're going to find out about Gareth, about his life, what makes him tick inside, and also we're going to start with his music career, because he was telling me earlier, when he was younger, he was almost split between, do I become a rock star or do I become a footballer? And you also told me that I didn't know that your mother was a professional singer.
Yeah. It's I mean, you're saying the decision to become a footballer or a rock star is quite it's quite a nice decision, isn't it? You know, I'm not sure I would have made the rock star, but I made the footballer, which was good. But the music was always big. My mum was a singer. She sang with big bands. So in the '60s, these big bands, orchestras on stage, and she would sing at 4,000 or 5,000 people. That's where my dad actually met her at one of her gigs, and a lot of covers: Dusty Springfield, Brenda Lee, and Cilla Black at the time, Lulu. You know, all these female wonders, singers of the '60s, and yeah, Mum used to be up there singing. And the big story was that. Shortly after meeting my dad, she got offered a record contract with EMI in London, this girl from Lancashire, and decided to stay in Lancashire, marrying my dad. And I think she probably looks back and maybe says, what if? But she's never said that, because shortly along, we came along, me and my brother.
Yeah, that was her priority.
And that was the priority then. So the music's always been there. So growing up was a musical household, especially with Mum singing away, you know. Dad, totally the opposite, loved his music to go and see gigs and go and watch it, but never would perform. Mum, at every opportunity, was singing. I think karaoke wasn't really around then, but if it had have been, I think she'd have been ripping that up as well.
Yeah. And of course, later on, you did have some bands. You were in a band called APA, is that right?
Yep.
With Trond Anderson and Chris Perry.
Yeah.
And
Wimbledon connections.
Yeah, and then you were in Dog Chewed the Handle. And there's the videos on YouTube. I watched a couple. You're quite punky because people were pogoing in the audience. Yeah,
maybe a bit of drink going on there with the audience there, but we are quite punky. You know, the lead guitarist in Dog Chew the Handle is now with me in the current band, the Cold Blooded Hearts, and his influences were the New York Dolls, the Clash, things like that. So there's a punky spin on a lot of the songs, and we do covers. People love to hear covers, so we try and put our spin on them, and it's all about energy. You know, I think those who see me as a player would probably be able to, without seeing me on stage as a singer, would probably know what I would be like. You know, there's plenty of movement, plenty of energy, plenty of jumping around. I just love that energetic feel that I get up there on the football pitch, wherever. But that's some great days, and I say it all started at Wimbledon with Trond, still a good friend in Norway, and Chris Perry, who again can be mixed up sometimes with the player Chris Perry. It was actually the groundsman Chris Perry, but great drummer at the time.
And you also told me, which we'll just get this in before we go on more to the football side, that you're also in a tribute band, and you're going to be Michael Hutchinson soon.
I am with a tribute band currently. It's obviously a one-off thing, but there's a festival over near where I live, a place called Dinton Pastures, a marvellous festival it's called, and it's a tribute band festival, and people have their views on that. But you know, we put it together. We're in excess on the Saturday night, and so for I think it's 10 or 11 songs, I'm Michael Hutchins, and he was another one, you know, hero of mine. Loved In Excess. It's obviously the era of the 80s and early 90s, and yeah, it's going to be a test. I don't think there'll be too many managers singing in a tribute band a couple of weeks before the season, but it's a passion. You're not going to take it out of me. So yeah, looking forward to that as well.
And you got this nickname Wild Thing, but when did you actually get that?
At Wimbledon.
At Wimbledon,
so, yeah,
of
at Wimbledon. Kenny Cunningham.
Okay.
He's spawned the nickname for me. It was actually a round of golf we had. Always used to go away on pre-season trips, and we had a round of golf. And I was very, shall we say, wet behind the ears on golf. I'm okay now, but back in those days, I wasn't the greatest player. And I think it came from my swing. I think my first swing hit a golf buggy. Second swing nearly killed one of the, like Carl Lieberman it was, or somebody like that. So Kenny Cunningham just started singing the Wild Thing song, and it kind of stuck. And yeah, it's still today. So that's the nickname, and I think it was quite apt at times.
And Reg Presley, the singer of the Trogs who did that, he was pretty out there too, wasn't he?
Well, he was, yeah, and obviously it's something that stayed with me. I remember at Selhurst Park when it was there, they used to play it on the public address when I'd come on a sub or score a goal. It was fantastic for me. So yeah, it kept it with me, and a bit tamer these days, but there's still that little wild thing in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through your career. Wimbledon came in and offered an incredible £2 million for you.
Yeah,
which at that time was a lot of money.
Totally, yeah. Blew me away. You know, I think it was only at Vale for a year. I signed a big contract there, and I'd made plans to stay in the area, live in the area, and then Wimbledon came. You know, I think there was Tottenham, Leeds, and Wimbledon all sort of bidding for me, and Wimbledon went the highest. Sam Haman, Joe Kinnear. I remember meeting in the Landmark Hotel in London, and for a lad from Blackburn to go down to London, it's, you know, I think we'd only ever been there once before on a sightseeing trip. So going down and being blown away by everything, you know, I think I'm about 24, 25 years old now. Again, took my dad, Bill, who was my agent throughout, and sat in front of these two, you know, big names in football that we. And Dave Barnard, I remember, was still
he still supports AFC Wimbledon. Yeah, he's brilliant.
Still a great friend. Yeah. Still a great friend. At what he's done at Chelsea is incredible as well. He's a top guy in football. But I'm sitting there, so myself, my dad, Joe Kinnear, Sam Haman, and Dave Barnard all talking about, you know, money that you dream about, you know, and that's. I think they'd lost out on a signing just before me. I think they tried to get somebody from Cardiff, and I think they'd lost out because the wage demands were too high, and I think I was in luck because they didn't want to miss out on me as well. So I thought it wasn't extortion, you know, ridiculous. We weren't going for the jugular. It's sort of they were like quite generous, saying, we want you. We've just missed out on one. We want you here, and we want you to be our right winger. And it was a fantastic moment for me because this is Premier League. This is everything every player dreams of. You ask any player where they want to play in the Premier League. And
then what happened to you when you signed? What did they do with you, the crazy gang?
Yeah, well, the first week of training, we had Notts Forest on the Saturday. I think I signed on the Thursday, I think. I came down the Friday. I didn't play against Blackburn, it was, on the Saturday. I remember watching the Blackburn game. Another irony in my life, you know, because Jack Walker was still around then, and I think Jack had said, oh, you know, why don't you come to Blackburn? We, you know, local lad. They never came in for me, you know. And we said, well, you never made a bid, you know. Maybe I'd have come back to Blackburn, but I was happy at Wimbledon. Meeting Ben Thatcher and Kenny Cunningham on the first meeting, that was a baptism of fire, you know, with Ben and Robbie, because Robbie had been at Port Vale. We didn't actually know each other.
Robbie Earl,
yeah. But we had this this sort of connection. We'd both been at Port Vale. Robbie was from Stoke. I'd lived in Stoke. We instantly sort of hit it off, and he was the club captain. So that was in my corner already. But then in that first week's training, it was crazy. I think on the Thursday it was. They cut my clothes off and set something on fire. I think my trainers or something set them on fire at the old Richardson Evans training ground out the window. So the first, I think they left me for a couple of days because I was expecting it. So on about the Thursday,
I was going to say, you should have been sussed.
It was famous, you know, the famous Wimbledon crazy gang doing things to people. It was famous. So I think they'd left me on the first day and the second day, and about the third or fourth day, we were doing this session outside on the pitches, and all of a sudden Robbie Earl pulls up injured, and then Effa Nakoku pulls up injured, and then I think Carl Levern pulls up injured, and I'm thinking, God, that's unlucky. Like 3 of them getting injured, and they weren't injured. They'd just gone inside so they could get to my clothes before I got in. So I've walked in and showered, changed everything. Eat first, shower, change. Get ready to get changed again. All my clothes are in absolute ribbons, like a scarecrow. So they'd cut all my jeans right up. It was like, nowadays it'd probably be in fashion, but in those days, scarecrow, shirt was gone, trainers had been burnt, they were on fire somewhere, they were like a mouldy mess in the car park. And it was just all these pack of hyenas giggling and laughing. And I remember that I was staying in the Hilton at Cobham, that's where they put their new signings. And I remember having to walk into the Hilton in Cobham in my training gear and carrying this bunch of clothes that had been ripped to shreds. And but once you'd been done, and that was it. And I think John Hartson didn't follow me, wasn't long following me through the door. You know, I think 2 or 3 weeks later, John was the big signing.
I think he was £7 million, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think 7.5. So I was 2, and this big signing, and they blew it out the water with 7.5. So he came in the door, and I think they got him 10 times worse than they got me. So he could afford it more than me. So he took the pressure right off.
But unfortunately, your Wimbledon career was blighted by injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. You know, on the way down, we'd been speaking to Kevin Keegan. He was at Fulham at the time, and he was also England manager. And there was, you know, there was all sorts of, you know, opportunities for me. But I think I only played about 5 or 6 games in the Premier League, and then got a groin injury, which
you played. If this is correct, if I pulled off the net, 8 times you played the first season, didn't score.
Yeah,
and then just 2 times the second season.
I was out for a whole year. I remember.
So it's 10 games in 2 seasons. Yeah,
and for the big signing, you know, it's just not. It wasn't good enough. I had this groin injury. People suffer from it now. I think Steven Gerrard had a similar thing at the time, and I was out for a long, long time. I think I spent one Christmas day in the treatment room, and then the next Christmas day in the treatment room. It was that long.
So what goes through your mind when this is going on? Here you are. This is the pinnacle of your career. You are in the Premier League. They paid £2 million for you. Get a decent salary, and you're hardly playing. It must be terrible.
Well, as you said it there. One of my biggest things was I felt guilty, you know. I felt a big amount of guilt that I was picking up this wage. They paid all this money for me, and I was in the treatment room, and I was trying so hard to get out of the treatment room, and probably they put a little bit of pressure on me to come back early a couple of times and put myself back even further, and I think that did happen. It was a groin injury that we tried to treat the hernia. I had about 4 operations on the groin. I even had my wisdom teeth taken out. You know, for this radical new. We got right down a year down the line. This French. I remember going to France, and they sent me. This new. They were saying that somehow that the wisdom teeth are connected to the nerves, and this can cause tension down. I went through everything. Believe me, absolutely everything, and the emotion was. Guilty, a little bit despair, you know. It was it wasn't tears, but it was close to a couple of times because you know, it was the first time in my career where I'd come up against something like this.
Yeah, it must be so frustrating because you know your career's finite.
Yeah.
You know you get to a certain age, you can't really play anymore.
Of course, you know.
And the 2 years tick by.
And I think not just that. I think what I'd done previously, I was feeling like I could have done anything in football. I was really flying. So to have the you know, the rug pulled underneath you, so to speak, and it was literally the whole house was pulled underneath me. It just put me out for a year. I came back. I got another injury, a different injury, kept me out for 6 months, and then I came back. And by the time I came back to full fitness, Wimbledon were in the championship, and that really was. I've got no regrets, but one wish was that I could have had a longer spell in the Premiership than I got, you know. I mean,
and of course Joe Kinnear
Joe
wasn't well.
Had his heart attack at Sheffield Wednesday, and Mick took over, and Terry took over, and
Well, Egil Olsen came in, didn't he?
Egil Olsen came,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's the year we went down. Some good memories, some fantastic memories, and they will always outdo the injury memories. You know, my debut at Forest, beating Arsenal, who were the double champions that year, and then scoring 2 at Newcastle United. You know, that was probably the highlight of my career.
3-1 down we were.
3-1 down,
yeah.
and I remember Egil was the manager.
Yeah.
We'd gone up. I wasn't 100% fit. I even remember to this day I wasn't 100% fit. The groins were still bugging me, but I had to get out and contribute somehow on this pitch. And I remember going. It was about the 70th minute or 65th minute or something. I walked out as subs do, and Mick Harford came out with me. He was one of the coaches there, and all he said to me, we're 3-1 down, and it looked to all the world we were going to get beat. He just said to me, "Gaz, just go and cause havoc." That's what he said to me. So I just played anywhere I wanted to on that front line, picked up the ball on the left wing, cut in on the right wing, and scored one in the box. And that, yeah, again, those 2 goals were great moments, and moments I'll save you. The only thing that I was disappointed was that my mum and dad have been to, I've played 600 league games, I reckon they've been to 570. That was one of the ones they didn't go to. So mum and dad were never there to see the 2 goals in the Premier League, and you know, they were the first on the phone to congratulate me afterwards.
So, as you say, Wimbledon went down. It was an awful time. Terry Burton was the manager for 2 years when Wimbledon were in the championship.
Yeah.
And you got back from injury. You did play some games, but then you lost your place to Jody McEnough.
Yeah. Which, again, it was, I mean, a great name to lose your place to, you know, because Joby had a fantastic career as well. You know, we were playing well, you know, and we had a good side. Trond Anderson had come in the team. Mark Williams, Neil Ardley was still there, you know, commanding things in midfield, because me and Neil always thought only one of us would get to play because we were both sort of right-sided midfielders. But Neil was this fantastic midfield player. Jason Ewell, of course, you know, a real good team in the championship. And yeah, Joby was coming through as a young kid, and rightly so. You know, you have these moments in your careers where somebody's doing better than you. And I remember battling with Joby over positionals, and I think Stuart Murdoch took over the final season, and I ended up going to Cardiff in the March, and Joby made that position his own then, you know, and that's where we parted company with Wimbledon.
Yeah, and Wimbledon had become something else by that time as well. We won't go into that though. So you went to Cardiff briefly.